Hey everybody, it's Sunday here in Cypress, Texas. So today, um, I was looking up on Copilot if there was a connection between Hammurabi and Abraham. So Hammurabi was a Mesopotamian king that died like 36 years before the birth of Abraham. And he came up, it's called it Hammurabi's Rules, and he was the king of Mesopotamia back when Mesopotamia was a small country and it was between four large empires. And he was very shrewd with business and charismatic and amenable. He made friends with his powerful neighbors, and they paid him tariffs to take their goods and services across his little country to each other. And he built wealth for the country. And then his military had a process. If they looted, they conquered somebody and they looted them, they made them well, first off, what they did was the leaders of these units would bring them all the gold and silver. They'd melt it down, and they would take the drops of melted gold and silver, and they would press into it their insignia of their unit, and making the first shekels, the first coins. And Hammurabi said, that's a good idea. So he made him turn on everything into him. He would melt it down, all right, and make and distribute it evenly throughout all the military. And then he basically wrote up Hammurabi's Rules, which was actually rules for money. And in his rules, there was built in a minimum living wage. And what happened is his military began to conquer their neighbors because people kept coming into, well, it was real easy to win the battle when you're going to the enemy, hey, come join us and you'll get this minimum living wage, which they weren't getting. And so he basically, that's how he won over the it's like the Democrats buying votes, right? It's kind of what they're doing. I mean, and so he, that's how he built his empire. And then he didn't live very long. He didn't make it to 60, and he died. Okay, 36 years before the birth of Abraham. And so, according to Copilot, it was obvious that there was an influence in the beliefs with Sarah, because in Hammurabi's rules, it was authorized for women who were barren to have their husbands sleep with their maidservants to have children. And so that was the key that shows that there was an influence with Hammurabi and Hammurabi's Rules. Now, when you go and you look at Moses's 316 laws, and you look at Hammurabi's Rules, it's just like they just cut and pasted the penalty for whatever infraction from being shekels to animal sacrifices. Okay, like a college student, plagiarizing somebody else's work and turning it in. Okay, so I picked that up right away once I read Hammurabi's Rules. Now, why did I read Hammurabi's Rules? I was in a ministry house with a bunch of young guys that were like, either off the streets, they had addiction problems, right? They were A lot of them had like bench warrants for unpaid tickets and traffic violations. They had suspended licenses and all these kind of things. It took like 3 years, but the majority of them are up and functional. They got jobs, they got cars, they got their girlfriend, now they're getting married, right? These kind of things, they evolved, but it took forever, man. It was like pulling teeth to get them to start becoming functional. But it happened, okay? And I have that experience, so when I sit with somebody and I see where they're at. So here I am doing this for myself. I learned about a debt roll-up, didn't even know how to use Excel. I had a whiteboard behind my bedroom door, had all my debts, not the highest debt to the smallest debt, the balances and what the monthly payment was. And every month I'd change them balances, man. And when I paid off that first debt, I would add that payment to the payment of the next smallest debt, and I just pay my bills on time. And then when I got moving around some money, like $250, and my wife's like, "Wait, I'm going to work with the ones that want to work, want to work with me." So she called all of our creditors, and she talked to the guy at Discover Credit Card, and we only had like a $1,500 balance. He said, "Well, whatever you pay today, I'll match." So I was able to get $500. So I took $1,000 off the debt, just like that, which accelerated the process, and got myself out of debt. Then I answered to add the paper as a debt management consultant, and wrote more business for that company than anybody did in San Diego, California for a year and a half. I did in 1 month, and they made me the manager. Every time I showed somebody how to get out of debt, they started looking at buying a house. So I got my real estate license, started doing mortgages and real estate. And if I had a crystal ball, I couldn't have picked a better time to do